Welcome back to the session. Today we're going to look at something called rounding. Before we move on, what do you think rounding actually does to a number? Now, we use this method of rounding to get either a whole number. Well, we're going to break it down into a couple of steps. We can use rounding for rounding to a nearest whole number, and then we can use that method to be rounding to the nearest 10, and the nearest 100, and the nearest 1,000. So we're going to start with rounding to the nearest whole number. And we like rounding to the nearest whole number when we get, let's say, nasty decimals, like this number here, 5.84. Now, that is not in an estimation question in anything like GCSEs. You may get a question most likely on non-calculator that looks like this, 5.81, and you want to round to the nearest whole number. So the nearest, let me just put a title. Actually, I'm a little bit unorganised. I need to put a title on. So to the nearest whole number. So nearest whole number. Okay, that could be anything. It's common sense, really, but here we go. So, how we round this number to the nearest whole number? We look at the number that is after the... I'm going to do this in another pen, actually. Another thing here. We look to round to the nearest whole number. We look at the number next to the decimal place. And the decimal place is literally just the decimal. It's just the decimal place going. That splits up the number. So, like I said, we split up that, and we look at the number after that decimal place, which is an 8. Now, here's the rule. If we have a number that is higher than 5, that means you round up. If you have a number lower than 5, you round down. So this is what we're going. This is the same method that we're going to use for the for this one. If we look at this number 8, is this bigger than 5? Yes, it is. And if it's bigger than 5, it will round up to, well, it's going to round up to 10. So that means the entire number is going to become 6. We look at the first number after the decimal place. We round it up. Does it technically is what we can do is also 5.84. Well, if it was below 5, then that will obviously round back down to 5. But since it is above 5 in that decimal column, it's going to round up back to it's going to round obviously back to the into obviously the number that comes that comes after it. Let's do a slightly more difficult example. How about this? We want to round this number, which is another decimal place, to the nearest whole number. We do this exact same method. This time we are using a double digit, but it's exactly the same. We look at the digit after the decimal point. We need to draw a line. Oh, actually no. We need to draw a line after the decimal point, and we can see that is 3. And we need to know, does 3 round up and down? Now, like I said, we can say, okay, so 3 is less than 5, so that means it's going to round back down to 12. If it was 6, that means it'll round to 13. So that means it rounds. So if it was a number below 5, it's going to round the entire number back down to the nearest integer. That's just a whole number. And if vice versa, really. Okay, I think we all get that. We're going to do one more example. So let's have a look. 144.61. So we want to round this up to the nearest whole number. All that, like I said, don't be confused if these numbers are getting quite big. You'll do the exact same method. We're not rounding to 10. We're not rounding to 100. Or none of that. All we're doing is rounding to the nearest integer. That could be the nearest 1,000, that could be the nearest 100, that depends. So this time it'll be the nearest, it literally is the nearest integer. So we're going to use the exact same method. We're not changing any methods here. We look after the decimal point, and we determine, does this round up? Oh, yes, it does, because it's higher than 5. So that means the entire number will round up, and it will be 145, because it rounds it all up, because of that 6. So that is just 145. Okay, so I'm going to give you some practice questions for you to have a go at. Now, I'm going to just steal it off from a, let's say, site. Let me just see what questions I can do. I'm going to get you 5 questions to do. Okay, please pause the video and have a go at them. I'm just trying to find out the questions I can ask, because I'm not very good at generating the question. Let's have a look. Right, so... let's have a look. So it has to be decimal. So let's see, 1.27. Yes. Okay. Have a go at them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions for me. Give me a couple of minutes and we're going to get started. And then we're going to move on to the nearest 10,000 and 100, etc. Okay, so... Okay, we're going to get started. So, for this one, let's have a look. We need to look again back at that decimal points, okay? So, sorry about this. We need to look at the number that is before the decimal place, which is 2. So what we need to do is, does that round up or down? That rounds down. So that's just going to literally be 1. So for this one, we look at the one after decimal point. We need to determine, does 3 round up or down? It's literally going to be down because it's less than 5. So that's just going to be 11. Oh, let me just do that again. Come on. There we go. Alright, so this number, getting a bit harder now. Again, exact same method. Look at the number after the decimal point. And it's a 7, so that means it will round up because it's more than 5. So that means it's going to round up to 153. Now, it doesn't have to be 10 digits. It's a whole number that is not a decimal. That's all that means. Again, we'll do the same method here. Look after the decimal point. It's 9. That's bigger than 5, so that means it's going to be 647. This is the hardest example. Here, but we're just going to use the same method. We look at the number after decimal point, that's 7, and that 7 is going to round it up from 1024 to 1025, and that is your final answer. Hopefully you've got all that right, because we're about to move on to something a little bit more, let's say, harder. We're going to round to nearest tens. We're going to do another number 7. We're going to round, so rounding... We're going to do this all in one go because they're very similar. And hopefully you will not be asked for rounding nearest 10,000, because it will be something else, which will be we're going to be doing in the next lesson, which is something, well, slightly harder rounding, which we'll have a look at. It's more to do with decimal places, etc. But let's get started. So, we're going to do 3 examples for each. So, for example, for rounding the nearest 10, we're going to have this. So, let's have a look. 30. So, this is number here. Notice this is going to be a little bit different. We've not got decimal place. Now, to round to the nearest 10, we do the exact same method. We're just what you could do is you look at the number after the 1, or after the first digit, and this will determine which one will round up or down. So, 3, like I said, the rules, 3 rounds down because it's less than 5. So that means that this is going to round down. So 13 to the nearest 10 is going to be 10, because 3 rounds it down to 10, because it's less than 5. So that means it will definitely round down. So now we're going to do 2, 37. 37 to the nearest 10. Okay, so the nearest 10, again, we do the same method. We'll look at the one after the first integer. First digit, sorry, which is a 7. That's more than 5. So that means it's going to be rounding up from 30 to 40. Okay. Right. Example 3, slightly harder. 614. We're jumping way ahead. What do you think this will be? Have a go at this, actually. This is a hard one. Okay. So, it's the exact same method, okay? It's extremely unlikely they'll ask you to round a 100 digit to 10. It will normally be 100, which we'll see in a minute, okay? So, we're going to look at that in a minute, okay? So, it's literally the exact same method. We look at the number that is in a tens column, because we're looking at around the nearest 10, which is going to be this column. So we look at the 4, and we determine which one rounds it down. So 4 is less than 5, so that means it's going to round it back down to 610. So this number will be rounding to the nearest 10. Okay, so now I'm going to round examples to the nearest 100. 50. Okay, it's the exact same. So 50 to the nearest 100. Now, how I would do this this time is I would look at the first digit. And we think, okay, so what 100 digit is it closest to? Well, it will be, there's no 100 digit that is before 50, which is technically 0. So that means that will be your 100. So 50 to the nearest 100 will technically be 100. I don't think you'll ever get a question like that, so that was really poorly constructed. We'll do this one. Oops, wrong colour. Let me just do that again. 1, 4, 5. So 145 to the nearest 100. We look at let's have a look. This column here after the 1. So we'll look here. We've got a 5. And then what the 4 will do is that's going to round it down to the next 100. So instead of rounding to 200, it's going to round back down to 100. So 140. You could even think about it like 145 is slightly closer to 100 than 200. So you can also think it like that. But I would like to think it with the first digit, if it rounds up or not, because it will always work. Okay, 3. This is going to be our final example. 1,000. Actually, I'm doing a really hard one. 1,050. Again, you'll normally be rounding to the nearest 1,000 if it was like this, but we'll go on with it. This to the nearest 100. Look at the hundreds place. Does this round down? Yes, it does. So to the nearest 100, this will be 1,1200, and that is your correct answer. Okay, you see how it's been really specific. Have I done this right? Oh, sorry about this. I've done it wrong a little bit. It's actually 1,300 because the 5 rounds it up. I don't know why I did that. But yeah, you won't get a question like that. Okay, anyway, that's on right. Anyway, right, nearest 1,000. This is the highest I'll ever get in rounding. So this to the nearest 1,000, you literally just look at the first decimal place. And that's just literally going to be, if it's a 2, then it's going to round down. So 1,000, when you think about it, you can also say if it's closer to 2,000 or 1,000, it's closer to 1,000. So that's literally just 1,000. 2, we're going to do this one. So 6,000, 4,000 is not going to be right. Let me just do them again. Right, so this is the nearest 1,000. Again, you look at the first digit, look at that. So 4 rounds it down because it's not nearest 5. So that nearest the nearest 1,000. Now be careful, guys. The nearest 1,000 is not the nearest 100, so it won't be 6,400. It'll be 6,000. Well, just literally be 6,000. Okay, marking on as we go. And then for this one, we're going to do a hard one. 224.40 to the nearest 1,000. Now, what you'll do here, this is more like 10,000. Okay, but you also look at the third digit, which is the 1,000 column. So how I would do this, you'll look at the hundredths digit, which is here. So at the third digit, I was getting a bit confused there. And you see if these round down or not, which is a 2. Does a 2 round it down? Yes, it does. So the nearest 1,000 for here is just going to be 1,200,000. And that's your final answer. Okay. We're going to do our last couple of answers here. So we're going to do this. Okay, so I'm going to give you some exam questions to do. So questions. So I'm going to give you some of these. So let's go 384, 761. So this is going to be round. I want you guys to round these each to the nearest 10. So to the nearest 1,000. Okay, so the nearest 1,000. Okay. Oops. Right, so I don't think I have much very much. Actually, 485 to the nearest 100. Okay, so I want you to have a go at all these 3 questions for me. You round it to nearest 1,000, 100, and the nearest 10. Have a go. So there's that one. There's that one. So have a screenshot of all of them. I can't really send it. This is question 1, question 2, question 3. There we go. Okay, so let's get started. So, this one, we need to round this number. I'm not going to say it out. I'm not rounding this. I am not saying that out. But yeah, we want to round this up to the nearest 1,000. So all we need to do is we need to look at the hundreds column, which is the 4. And we need to determine if this rounds... Sorry, oh shit. No. No, we don't want to do that. No, this, the third digit, which is going to be our hundreds column. So you look at the one that is next, which is a 7. So what you need to do is that's going to round up to 5, okay? Because obviously that's going to be that. Also, you can also use it the other way, like I said, but it's a little bit harder with these bigger numbers. Let me just make sure I am not misspacing my zeros. Yep, that's okay. So that's your mark. 1485, the nearest 100. I don't really have much space, but what we need to do is you need to look at the second column, which is 10th column, and we need to see if this rounds down to 1,400 or 1,500. So this rounds up to 1,500 because this 8 rounds it up. So this is going to be 1,500. That's one mark. 634 to the nearest 10. So we just look at the first digit. You can see what's going on here. The decimal places move this way as the numbers get smaller, as they do. So all we need to do, okay, so does this round up to, or does this round down? So the third, so no, this here, this is round to 10. This is a 4, so ignore that. If that's going to round it down to 630 because it's going to be 10. Okay, thank you very much. Hope you've found this question clear. Next lesson, I'm going to do the harder rounding, which is more like, we use more of our decimal places. This is more like, that is going to be more likely to come up in any of exams. This could be significant figures, this could be, you know, decimal places, rounding to decimal places, all that. I'll get you ready for it as well. Hopefully that'll be okay. Thank you very much, and I'll see you later.